to him, but but Oscar was definitely up for the fight, and I think that with Oscar being a promoter now, he definitely, being that he's his own promoter, he's not going to come out there anything but business type, business minded, and and ready to just deal with the business of boxing more so than Floyd, who's appealing more to, I guess you could say, the younger, the hip hop generation. He's from the generation, and so he pretty much. I've seen Floyd at other press conferences, and I haven't, as you stated earlier, I have never seen him as hyped as he is right now.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, I'm like you said earlier, I'm about to get paid, but look at here, for anyone who has any doubt about, who I am and what I can do, after I, in his mind, take care of De La Hoya, then you need to get off my back.
Right.
So I think in a subconscious sense, Floyd may feel like I got something to prove. I still have something to prove.
Right, right. Well, I mean, he did say after, like, he did a segment after the press conference where one of the reporters, I also happened to catch it on BoxingScene.com. Big shout out to them because they got it going on.
No doubt, no doubt.
But I saw after the press conference, he had the little one-on-ones with the reporters, and one of the reporters asked him, was this his last fight? And he said, yeah, it was. I mean, I think when I think about it, it's like, well, if you beat De La Hoya and you still got the belt, there's some people who may actually want to come after you.
Okay.
And so I feel for him in a lot of senses. I mean, this reporter is saying that he doesn't think that Floyd, has earned it, but neither has Ricky Hatton, and they seem to be blowing him up.
You about to start something right now.
Well,
you got some London fans that's probably listening to this broadcast who probably feel quite differently.
Hey, I mean, controversy sells,
Yeah, I know.
and I'm looking. I mean, I can't help but to think about this last Ricky Hatton fight,
Okay.
and I mean, there were a whole different variables involved in it coming from the announcers. They were saying that Hatton wanted to do this fight in Las Vegas so he could try to get some of the American people, more so to jump on this bandwagon and be Ricky Hatton fans. I don't see it. I mean, like, if we gonna hang out, and I've said it before, if you want to hang out and go to a bar over in London, a pub or whatever, and happen to catch one of those karaoke/boxing matches, I think that's where you probably would see Ricky Hatton at his best. But I mean, boxing wise, he actually is getting a lot of hype too. And there are a lot of boxers that have not really been tested, but have gotten a lot of hype.
Right.
We can do name. Matter of fact, before we go into the name association, and sticking with this thing about how hot it is, between Floyd and Oscar and this tour. They were here, and I'm sorry I missed that. I didn't find out until afterwards. We're gonna have to work on that.
Yeah, definitely.
But the rumor mill is just jumping. Now I'm hearing that Lennox Lewis is talking about coming back.
Oh, what an interesting topic to discuss. Lennox Lewis, former heavyweight champion, definitely one of the hardest hitting heavyweights to step on the scene. He's always, though, had somewhat of a questionable chin in the heat of certain battles where he's been caught and been laid out. But I think that Lennox coming back, if he does come back to fight Klitschko, again, it's sort of the same situation emotionally that I feel is coming from Floyd Mayweather. That is, I really believe that even though Lennox says consciously that he doesn't have anything to prove, anyone who saw that last fight knows that had it not been for the cut over Klitschko's eye, that he was going to basically win that fight. Lennox, there's always been a question about his training. In terms of being up for certain fights, some fights he would, whenever his training was good and whenever he had a good camp leading up to a fight, he was dominant in the ring, but if he slipped on his training in any way whatsoever, you could see, you know, a number of his later fights when, you know, he's a little heavy in a couple of fights, and then on the fights that he would win, he was always in tip-top shape. And basically, when he fought Klitschko, a lot of enthusiasts, boxing columnists said that and felt that he was not in his best shape when he fought Klitschko. So
he had pork chops and mashed potatoes.
He had pork chops and mashed potatoes. Exactly. And so right now, you know, Klitschko, I guess we can't talk about Lennox Lewis and not talk about Vladimir Klitschko. I mean, you know,
suspect.
It's going to be, you know, Lennox. I mean, it's going to be a serious fight. It's going to be a serious fight if he decides to come back and fight Klitschko. Whether or not Lennox can pull it out, that remains to be seen. I don't know. I don't know if you know, you always have this question of ring rust. I don't know if I'm looking at some of the rankings in the heavyweight division. I don't know if he needs to maybe, you know, test his skill on some of the top 10 ranking fighters and maybe fight a you know, a tune-up fight, you know, before he goes right into face Vladimir. But, you know, nevertheless, knowing Lennox Lewis, he's going to probably feel like he doesn't need a tune-up. He's going to get himself in shape, no doubt, because he knows he's going to have to be in shape to face Vladimir Klitschko.
Right.
But I think he's going to probably want to just go ahead and just fight Vladimir, and in his mind beat Vladimir, and then go back into retirement. What do you think about it?
I personally, man, I'm still trying to figure out exactly. Well, I'm trying to figure this one out, right?
Okay.
I can't remember which fight it was, but what I do remember was Lennox Lewis and Emanuel Stewart were doing the commentary with Jim Lampley at this particular fight.
Right.
I got to tip my hat to Emanuel Stewart because technically he goated Lennox Lewis into the situation, you know. Lampley was the catalyst for the conversation.
Right.
I learned some big words today, so I'm gonna try to use them.
Drop it like it's hot.
He had asked Emanuel Stewart, you know, about young Lennox Lewis. Back in the day, Lennox Lewis against a Vitaly Klitschko or Vladimir Klitschko today. And, you know, of course, Emanuel Stewart, just like I said, you know, I'm going to talk about my investments, you know, like, I believe in my investments, period. I believe in my investments. And, I mean, in the conversation, he pulled Lennox Lewis into it, and he basically goaded him by saying he didn't think that, you know, Lennox could beat either one of them. So I believe that Lennox probably went home after a while, you know, and you know how you get around your boys, because ain't no way in the world you gonna have me believe that over in London they don't sit around the table having their, you know, their tea and stuff talking about, homie, I know you're not gonna let him talk to you like that.
Right.
So, you know, I believe that that's part of what it may have been as far as money. I don't even believe that it's about the money. I think that he actually got goated.
Right. And on top of the fact that Emanuel was once his trainer.
Oh, of course.
So I mean, so you have a number of variables that are there that probably is, you know, enticing him to come back. You know, again, I guess what it boils down to with Lennox Lewis and Klitschko, particularly from Lewis's end, and that is, do you personally feel like you have something to prove? You know, clearly, if you look at his overall career, he's had a pretty good career, no doubt. He unfortunately, however, you know, he'll go down in history as beating Mike Tyson, but he beat a Mike Tyson that was
already beat
his prime, that had so many ins and outs, personally, legally, and what have you.
He was beat up when he came into the ring, anyway.
He didn't beat the Mike Tyson of the late '80s, the early '90s. You know, he beat a man who just basically has lost his, according to what the last thing I heard Mike Tyson say about boxing, he just doesn't, you know, he just doesn't